There is a place on this planet where sunlight has never arrived, not dimmed, not filtered, never arrived at all. A layer of water so vast it would swallow every continent stacked upon itself and still leave room for the sky. It begins roughly 1 kilometer beneath the surface and continues downward for another 3. We call it the Midnight Zone, the bathypelagic, and nothing that lives inside it obeys the rules we wrote for life. Consider what those rules are supposed to be. Life needs light, or something that once lived off light. Life needs warmth, or at least stability. Life needs pressure it can survive, oxygen it can breathe, food it can find. Life needs bodies that make sense, symmetry, proportion, a plan an anatomist could sketch. On the surface, these rules hold. In the shallows, they hold. In the sunlit gardens of coral and kelp, they hold beautifully. 1 kilometer down, they begin to bend. 2 kilometers down, they break. And still, something lives. To understand how strange this world is, begin with what surrounds it. The pressure at these depths is measured not in atmospheres, but in tons. A column of water, 4 kilometers tall, presses down on every square centimeter of every surface, every gill, every eye. A human body lowered, unprotected into this zone would not drown, it would collapse. The temperature hovers just above freezing, unchanging, unmoving. The same in the tropics as at the poles, because sunlight has no say here. There are no seasons, there is no weather. There is only the slow, invisible current of water so ancient that some of it last touched the atmosphere before the first cities were built. And yet, in this crushing, freezing, lightless void, there is more animal biomass than in all the sunlit surface waters combined. The Midnight Zone is the largest habitat on Earth, larger than every forest, larger than every desert, larger than the sky where birds fly, and we know almost nothing about it. The first descents to these depths began in the middle of the last century, in steel spheres small enough to bury a man in. What those early observers saw did not resemble the ocean they knew. It resembled a hallucination, points of light drifting where no light should be, shapes with no clear front or back, bodies made of glass, bodies made of nothing but jelly and intention, creatures that seemed less like animals than like ideas an animal might have, a rhythm older than us. That is what the deep feels like when you first descend into it. Not hostile, not empty, simply older and indifferent, and following rules that were written before evolution had chosen its favorites. Begin with the light. On the surface, light is a gift. Down here, light is a language, and almost every creature speaks it. Somewhere between 80 and 90% of the animals that live in the Midnight Zone produce their own light. Not reflected, not borrowed, generated from chemistry inside their own tissues. This is bioluminescence. And in the bathypelagic, it is not decoration. It is the primary medium of communication, hunting, defense, and mating across the largest living space on the planet. Think about what that means. The dominant visual signal in the largest habitat on Earth is not sunlight. It is animal-made light. A blue-green flicker, cold as starlight, blooming from the flanks and bellies and hanging lures of creatures we have barely named. If an alien intelligence looked at our planet and asked what its most common light source was, the honest answer would not be the sun. It would be the deep sea, glowing to itself in the dark. And still we do not fully understand why. We know the chemistry. A molecule called luciferin, an enzyme called luciferase, a reaction that releases photons instead of heat. We know some of the functions, lures for prey, counter-shading against the faint downwelling glow of the twilight above, startle flashes to blind predators, sexual signaling, species recognition, a private code of pulses and rhythms. But for many species, we do not know what their light is for. We see it, we record it, we cannot read it. An entire visual language, spoken constantly, in the largest room on the planet, and we are illiterate inside it. That alone would be strange enough. But the light is only the beginning of what evolution has done here that it has done nowhere else. Consider the bodies. In the sunlit ocean, animals are built for speed, or for camouflage, or for armor. Their shapes are compromises between predator and prey, between drag and thrust, between hiding and being seen. In the midnight zone, these compromises dissolve. There is nothing to hide behind. There is no bottom to lie against for most of the water column. There is no ambush terrain, and so the bodies become something else entirely. They become water. Many of the creatures that drift through this zone are composed almost entirely of gelatinous tissue, not bone, not muscle in any proportion we would recognize. Water held loosely inside membranes of protein, animated by nerves so sparse they would fail on the surface. Comb jellies the size of a fingertip and siphonophores longer than a blue whale colonial organisms strung together like living necklaces, each segment a specialized individual, sharing a nervous system across dozens of meters of open black water. To us, a body. To them, a coalition. The longest animals ever recorded on this planet do not live on land, and they are not whales. They are siphonophores of the deep, ribbons of coordinated life drifting through the midnight zone, hunting with curtains of stinging tentacles, digesting in shared stomachs, reproducing through buds and clones. They violate our intuitions about where one animal ends and another begins. They exist because in the deep, where energy is scarce and predators are rare, being long and delicate costs less than being fast and armored. Evolution, given a room this large and this empty, chose a different shape for life, and it did not stop at bodies. It rewrote metabolism. On the surface, a fish is a furnace. It burns oxygen fast, grows quickly, ages quickly, dies quickly. In the midnight zone, this economy inverts. Metabolic rates slow to a trickle. Growth stretches across decades. Some deep-sea fish take years to reach sexual maturity. Some invertebrates that live in and just below this zone are believed to be among the longest-lived animals on Earth. Their lifespans measured not in decades, but in centuries. Cold slows chemistry. Scarcity slows ambition. In the dark, patience is the dominant strategy. A creature, born in the midnight zone, may drift through its entire life, having encountered fewer meals than a surface fish eats in a week. And still, it persists. Still, it reproduces. Still, it passes its slow, strange genome forward into the dark. We were taught that life is a race. Down here, life is a vigil. The rules bend further when you consider how these animals find each other. In a habitat this vast and this dark, finding a mate is not a matter of proximity. It is a matter of miracle. The volume of water between any two individuals of the same species can be enormous. Vision is limited to the reach of a bioluminescent flash. Sound travels, but sound also scatters. And so evolution has produced solutions that, on the surface, would be considered pathological. In some species of anglerfish, the male is a fraction of the female's size. When he encounters her perhaps once in his lifetime, he bites into her flank and does not let go. His body fuses with hers. His circulatory system merges with her circulatory system. His organs atrophy. His eyes disappear. He becomes, in effect, a permanent reproductive appendage, drawing nutrients from her blood, providing sperm on demand. Some females carry several such fused males, hanging from their bodies like living ornaments. It wasn't parasitism. It wasn't symbiosis. It was a solution to loneliness so extreme that evolution rewrote what a male was. This is not metaphor. This is anatomy. In the midnight zone, the boundary between two individuals of the same species can be surgically abolished because finding each other again would be impossible. A rhythm older than us. And still, we have not reached the strangest part. The strangest part is the food. In every other ecosystem on Earth, food begins with light. Sunlight strikes a leaf, or a blade of grass, or a layer of algae, and photosynthesis converts photons into sugar. Every animal that has ever lived on the surface, from the smallest insect to the largest whale, is ultimately eating sunlight. It is the one rule that seemed absolute. In the midnight zone, this rule collapses. Some of the food that reaches these depths does come from above. A slow, constant snowfall of dead plankton, fecal pellets, shed scales, and the bodies of animals that died in the sunlit layers drifts downward for days, sometimes weeks, before arriving. Scientists call it marine snow. It is the primary calorie source for much of the deep, and it is thin, sparse, a famine that never quite ends and never quite kills. But some of the food does not come from above. Some of it comes from below, and from within, and from processes that have nothing to do with the sun at all. Along the seams where the planet's crust splits and reforms, hot mineral-rich water pours out of vents in the sea floor. Around these vents, ecosystems have assembled that draw their energy not from photosynthesis, but from chemosynthesis, bacteria that eat sulfur compounds and iron and methane, and larger animals that eat the bacteria or house them inside their own bodies as living factories. Tube worms without mouths or guts, filled instead with symbiotic bacteria that feed them from the inside. Clams that farm chemistry in their gills. Shrimp that cluster in the scalding water, blinded by the heat, but sustained by it. These ecosystems do not need the sun. If the sun were extinguished tomorrow, they would continue, for a while, at least. Long enough that whatever came next on this planet might evolve from them, rather than from us. And this changes what the Midnight Zone is, philosophically. It is not simply a habitat that survives without light. It is a habitat that demonstrates life does not require light at all. That the rule we thought was absolute sunlight as the foundation of the food chain is a local rule, a surface rule. A rule that applies to the thin, bright rind of the planet and stops applying the moment you descend. This is why astrobiologists watch the deep sea so closely. Because if life can build ecosystems here, in freezing black water fed by chemistry rather than photons, then the icy moons of the outer solar system, Europa, Enceladus, worlds with liquid oceans locked beneath kilometers of ice, are no longer improbable homes for life. They are plausible ones. The Midnight Zone is not just a strange corner of Earth. It is a template for what living worlds might look like elsewhere. We came looking for our own planet's basement, and we may have found the blueprint for someone else's ground floor, a rhythm older than us. Return, for a moment, to the creatures themselves, to the specifics. Because, in the Midnight Zone, the specifics keep breaking the general rules. There are fish here with transparent heads, their brains visible through domes of clear tissue, their eyes rotated upward inside their own skulls to watch for silhouettes passing overhead. There are squid with one enormous eye and one small one, the large eye tilted upward toward the faint remnants of surface light, the small eye tilted downward toward the flashes of bioluminescent prey. Asymmetry, not as flaw, but as strategy. There are predators with jaws that unhinge to swallow prey larger than themselves, stomachs that stretch like balloons, teeth so long they cannot close their own mouths. There are creatures that have abandoned swim bladders because at these pressures a gas-filled organ would be a liability, and instead fill their tissues with oils and waxes that keep them neutrally buoyant across kilometers of water column. There are animals with no eyes at all, having surrendered vision entirely, navigating instead by pressure waves, by chemical trails, by the electric fields of other bodies moving through the dark. There are animals with red pigmentation, because red light does not penetrate to these depths, and so red is functionally invisible, a cloak stitched from a color no predator can see. Each of these is a solution. Each of these is evolution, answering a question the surface never asked. And here is the part that unsettles the biologists most. Many of these animals are not closely related to each other. The transparent-headed fish and the tube worm and the giant siphonophore did not descend from a common deep-sea ancestor and radiate outward. They arrived here from different lineages, at different times, and independently converged on similar strategies. Gelatinous bodies, slowed metabolism, bioluminescence, extreme sexual solutions. The Midnight Zone did not evolve one kind of life. It pulled multiple kinds of life downward, over hundreds of millions of years, and reshaped each of them into something that fit. The zone is not a lineage, it is a mold. Any creature that stays long enough begins to resemble the others, not because they are cousins, but because the deep only accepts certain shapes, certain metabolisms, certain compromises. It is one of the clearest demonstrations of convergent evolution on the planet, and it is happening across the largest habitat we know, and we are only beginning to catalog it. Consider what that means for the census. Marine biologists estimate that the vast majority of species in the deep sea remain undescribed. Every serious expedition returns with animals no one has seen before. Not variants, not subspecies. No. New species, sometimes new genera, occasionally organisms so unfamiliar that placing them on the tree of life requires genetic sequencing before anyone can even guess where they branch. The rate of discovery has not slowed. If anything, it accelerates as our instruments improve. We have named more stars in distant galaxies than we have named animals in the Midnight Zone. And still, we do not know what most of them eat, or how they reproduce, or how long they live, or why their light flashes in the patterns it does, or whether the fused male anglerfish is the strangest solution evolution has produced down here, or merely the strangest one we have happened to observe. The honest answer, across almost every question this zone raises, is that we do not know. We do not know how many species live here. We do not know how their populations rise and fall. We do not know what most of their bioluminescent signals mean, a rhythm older than us. There is a temptation, when writing about the deep, to reach for the reassurance of resolution, to end with a discovery, a mechanism, a satisfying click of understanding. The Midnight Zone does not offer this. It offers, instead, the opposite. The longer you look, the less the rules apply. The bodies are wrong. The metabolisms are wrong. The reproductive strategies are wrong. The food chains are wrong. The very definition of what a single animal is becomes negotiable. And yet, none of it is wrong. All of it works. All of it has worked for hundreds of millions of years, quietly, without our attention, in the largest room on this planet. What is wrong is our rule book. We wrote it in sunlight, at surface pressure, in warm water, with our own bodies as the reference frame. We assumed the rules that produced us were the rules that produced everything. The Midnight Zone is the correction. It is the reminder that our biology is a local dialect, spoken loudly in a small, bright layer, while a much older and stranger language is spoken constantly, in the dark, by most of the life that has ever existed on Earth. The animals of the Midnight Zone do not follow the rules of evolution as we describe them. They follow the rules of evolution as evolution actually works, once you remove the assumptions of the surface. And what they show us is that life, given a room this large and this empty and this old, will fill it, not with familiar shapes, not with familiar strategies, but with something that persists and glows and reaches for other bodies across kilometers of black water and refuses to stop. Somewhere, right now, a light is flashing at a depth no human has ever reached. A signal, in a language we cannot read, sent by an animal we have not named to another animal we have never seen. It will flash again in a second. It has been flashing, in one form or another, for longer than mammals have existed. And still we do not know what it means. And still we do not know what lives beside it. And still we do not know why the deep chose these shapes and not others, and whether the shapes it chose here are the same shapes it has chosen on other worlds, in other oceans, beneath other ice. The Midnight Zone does not answer. It only continues.